Hello, hello, hello out there in podcast land, and welcome to another exciting episode of Explain of Thrones, the podcast all about exploring and analyzing the TV show and how it relates to the book series. Today I have my two regular guests, my wife, Melissa Harris.
Hello.
And her cousin, Robin Cabana.
Hey, guys.
All right. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So, first off, I want to say I really liked the end of this episode.
Yes.
But
awesome.
I felt like the beginning was kind of a low point. And it went from low to high over the course of the episode. What did you guys think?
Yeah, it was definitely the slowest, I think. I mean, there was a lot of things happening, but it was kind of like more of an old school Game of Thrones episode.
Yes.
Kind of like more of like a filler where things were lining up to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Which we haven't had all season.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Very true.
So it was a little weird. I mean, even though it was a pretty typical Game of Thrones episode in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I totally agree. And
yeah.
I think it was very strange, in this shortened season that the fifth episode would be one of the slower episodes.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think like episodes 1 through 3 would be slower.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I really like that about it. I felt that on the whole, it did a good job of like kind of setting things up.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm once again a little weary about like, is it too late for them to be having an episode like this? Because there's only 2 more in the season.
I know. Yeah. I think they got so much done already that it's like, well, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Yeah, they packed so much action in the previous episodes that...
Yes.
Yeah. So let's start off with the first sequence, which already was kind of a groaner to me, because it was like the last episode had the whole, is Jaime alive? How could he swim with all that armor? And it was just like, nope, bronze surfaces. He somehow managed to carry this heavy body full of armor, and not only that, managed to swim him far enough away that
Yeah, like the smoke's like in the far distance. It's
Yes.
like, how far did he swim with him to drag him out of there?
Underwater without breathing.
Yeah, it kind of was like, it was one of those things, too, that just happened so quickly. Like, keeping with the pace of all the other episodes. And Jaime didn't lose his gold hand. I thought maybe something like that would happen. Or,
Yeah, I was kind of expecting like us to see them underwater and Bronn's like unbuckling all his armor in order to like lift him out and like has to throw the hand away, because that would be kind of cool as like a almost like a parallel to Bronn having to throw away his gold, and like Jaime has to get rid of his golden hand. But we gotta keep these episodes moving.
Yeah. So, and then there was that scene of Tyrion walking through, almost like he was looking for Jaime, maybe.
Yeah, and I was disappointed, as I mentioned on the last episode. I was really hoping that Tyrion would have seen all that, because they showed Tyrion watching Jaime charge towards Daenerys. Did he just like, oh, they're in the water? Whatever.
Well, I mean, we don't know how close he was, and there was the fire coming, and there's a lot of other chaos going on. He didn't necessarily see it. I don't know.
The fog of war.
Yes.
Yeah. Whatever. But it kind of from a writing standpoint, it would have made more sense to have Tyrion find him, because then later in the episode they have to go through a whole thing for Tyrion to talk to Jaime, and he goes through Bronn to do that even. So it's like you have the same characters and you have to set up a whole nother reason for them to be together when you could have had them together right away.
Mm-hmm.
But what would Tyrion have done? swam into the water to save Jamie?
No, he could have been, like, standing at the edge of the water.
Oh, you mean, like, actually just seeing him come out?
Right, sees him come out, and, I mean, this is all on the fly. I didn't think this out beforehand, but if I were writing it, I'd have it be somewhere like Tyrion sees them come out and kind of tells them, like, he's not going to capture them. Like, he doesn't tell the other Dothraki or any of Daenerys' army about this. Instead, he kind of has a little meeting with them then, and then that sets up, like, his ability to meet with Jaime later. You know, whether it be, like, I've now done you a favor sort of thing, or, like, you know, it could have streamlined the plot a little bit.
Well, but then you wouldn't have had Cersei knowing everything, like, knowing that Bronn made this secret arrangement, and...
Yeah, that was so annoying. But I guess we'll get to that a little bit later. Up next was the scene where Daenerys is handing out her fire and blood justice.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. While we were watching it, we were kind of saying, like, this doesn't make Daenerys very likable. Like, her whole reason that she got these armies to follow her was, like, by choice. Like, they wanted to follow her. And now she's sitting here with the Lannister army, like, bend the knee or I'll burn you alive.
Yeah, that's not really giving them much of an option. It's like, I mean, there are, you know, the Tarleys end up saying, no, we're not going to bend the knee. But the majority of the people do bend the knee. But that doesn't mean that they're devoted to her or that they're in the same thinking as, like you said, the other, like the Dothraki and the people who actually did choose to follow her.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, her whole speech, you know, was like, you think, like, Cersei's told you that I'm this evil murderer who's come to, like, burn the cities and all that. Well, I did just burn all your men. So it was a little contradictory. Yeah, they were the armies. Now, I understand that, but it's more like if she's forcing these men to follow her under threat of death, it's almost like they've been, you know, press ganged into service. You know, they're almost like slaves.
Yeah, I mean, I thought she was going to say, you know, bend the knee, or I don't know, she was going to give them some other option, like to
march back to Cersei and tell her what you saw here.
Exactly. And then when she said that, I was like, oh, okay, that that doesn't really give them too much of a choice.
Yeah, but you know, she doesn't want to send them back because that would be
people get
Yeah,
so,
but there were so few of them. I feel like that would have been kind of cool, you know. And like Tyrion walked by and we saw how many people burned.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah, and then it would kind of also show, like, I'm not threatened by you guys. Like, I'm gonna win this anyway. I have a friggin' dragon. Like, go back and be part of Cersei's army if you want, but you know, I'm gonna win anyway.
Yeah.
Or maybe just march them up to Winterfell to be prisoners or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I think Tyrion suggested sending them to the wall. You know?
Yeah, sending Randall to the wall, exactly.
Yeah, you know, there could have been some options, definitely.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. And but it was kind of nice to see Randall Tarly get barbecued.
It was, and I mean, I even liked it from a story standpoint with like him and Dickon choosing to, you know, die rather than bend the knee. Like, that was very Tarly.
Yes.
Except for the fact, and didn't she even mention that, like, you just changed your allegiance from one queen to another? Like, so it is a little suspicious. Like, Randall, in the conversation with Jamie, he kind of sounded like, you know, he maybe wasn't gonna switch to Cersei. He maybe wasn't gonna betray the Tyrells.
Yeah.
And then he just went ahead and did it. But now all of a sudden he's, you know, noble and not gonna change his allegiance.
Well, He don't like foreigners. That's kind of,
Yeah, that's
he was
true.
very,
He's
like,
xenophobic.
Yeah, so there was that whole thing. And I just kind of was thinking about how now Sam is like, he just got a big bump.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, good for Sam.
Yeah.
His brother and his dad out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, should we go ahead and get into the Maester thing now then? Because what you just said didn't occur to me when I was watching the episode.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually, I was having a conversation with a friend today, and she pointed it out that Sam is now, now is, what are the Tarly lands called?
Oh.
I forget what they're called, but Sam, has now inherited all of that.
Yeah.
So when the Maesters were having that conversation, and they were like, "Oh, I didn't have the heart to tell him that his father and brother were just burned." Man, it's a huge thing to not tell him that he's just inherited, one of the richest castles and lands in the kingdom.
Yeah.
But
which is interesting because it gives them another ally in a way too. So.
Yeah.
But I thought that if you take the black, you can't inherit.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, he did take the black, and that would be against his vows. But
he's
hooking up with Gilly, and he's become a maester, which it's like
he went AWOL. So.
Yeah, he went AWOL.
And John also took the black, and
right.
Yeah, but, I guess there's not as strict rules about it anymore.
Yeah, Sam has definitely gone back on a lot of vows, but my point more is that wouldn't it have been a lot cooler? I mean, again, the show, they don't have time to really develop all these plots and stuff, but wouldn't it have been a lot cooler if the Maesters, Sam leaves the room in a huff, and then the Maesters discuss the fact that he's now the heir to the Tarly lands, and they're keeping it from him, maybe so that they can indoctrinate him a little bit more as a maester, and then get him to use this power in some way to help them. Because the maesters, it's one of those things that the book tells you if you read between the lines, but the maesters are just as big of schemers as a lot of the other players in the Game of Thrones. And it's even suggested that the maesters are ultimately responsible for killing off the dragons, and possibly even for sparking Robert's rebellion and ridding the Targaryens. So the maesters are very anti-magic, but in the show they've almost made it seem like they're just skeptics who don't believe in anything. Whereas in the books, it's more that they don't want magic to exist. Not that they don't believe that it exists, that they want to squash this kind of thinking and have a scientific revolution. So I think it would have been a lot cooler if, rather than simply saying, "Oh yeah, I didn't have the heart to tell him about his father and brother," if they were actually planning something. And also, let's not forget that Sam stole Heartsbane last season. Heartsbane, his father's Valyrian steel sword. Yeah. I'm sure that's going to come back, after he's back at the Wall or wherever he's headed.
I was just thinking before, I'm like, how fast is Sam going to get to wherever he's going?
Yeah, well, since it takes no time to get anywhere these days.
Is he going to go to the Wall? Is he going to go to Winterfell?
Yeah.
Is he going to go home? I mean, it would make sense for him to go to Hornhill. I mean, he might not, but...
That was it, Hornhill. Thank you. I forgot.
I just looked it up. That's why. I don't have your encyclopedic memory. But maybe, if he goes home, he just find out that he's the Lord or something. I don't know if that's part of his plan, but... Yeah,
I mean, I kind of got the impression, since he was stealing the scrolls, that he was going to take them back to the Wall.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of his whole purpose of going to the Citadel in the first place.
Sure.
But,
or at least to John.
Yeah, or maybe to go to Winterfell, but
Yeah.
he doesn't know that Jon is up at the wall now.
Yes, yeah. And I just thought that scene was kind of funny, him grabbing the scrolls, and then she looks back, and then he's like, he's out of there.
Yeah, he just books it.
He's like, I don't, he's kind of like, I don't need college, this is lame.
Yeah. I'm done with you, Hogwarts.
Yeah. Talked about this before too, how conveniently he found information. Like, he just happened to find the scroll about
the cure the grayscale, yeah.
Yeah. So they also conveniently found another scroll.
Yep.
Very interesting. This week that.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean that was like such a great little scene, and he was just like, whatever.
He just totally ignored it.
Well, I kind of felt, I was like, when they had Gilly being like, what's annulment? And then just offhandedly saying that, I was like, are you kidding me? That's the way they're going to relay this information. Like,
and that was huge.
They really couldn't think of another way to do it. They're like, well, she's just going to have to find it and say it. Like, couldn't think of something more clever, but.
Well, it makes me wonder because it would be kind of clever and very Game of Thronesy if it is gonna play in another way, but I don't think they're gonna do it. I think it's like you say, they just wanted to throw that in there, and that was the only way they could think to do it.
Well, maybe you should explain it a little, because I don't know if just show watchers would get that.
Right.
I feel like people who haven't read the books might not understand what she was even referring to.
Yeah, exactly. So we were actually at a party this weekend, and some of my friends who are show watchers only were pointing out that the whole Rhaegar Lyanna thing was completely lost on them, and had to be overly explained, because the show has done almost nothing to let you know that. They kind of shoehorned in the scenes with Bran at the Tower of Joy, but in the books it's a constant thing in the first book, especially when you're getting Ned's perspective, where he's thinking about his sister Lyanna, and she made him promise something that we don't find out what it was, and she made this promise from a bed of blood, and Jon's parentage is brought up multiple times, but the show really hasn't done it. So what the show just told us is, not only did Rhaegar supposedly abscond with Lyanna, Ned's sister, but he had his marriage annulled and then married Lyanna in secret down in Dorne. Mm-hmm. So that means that Jon is not a bastard.
Yeah, and Rhaegar is Daenerys' brother.
Right, Rhaegar is Daenerys' older brother, who was essentially, when the Mad King was in the height of his madness, Rhaegar was his oldest son, who was supposedly very well liked, very charismatic. He was a singer and very well read. And there's even theories that he was planning to overthrow his own father, and take over the crown.
So he would be heir to the throne, meaning that if Jon was a legitimized child of Rhaegar, he would almost have have more of a claim than Daenerys to the throne.
Mm-hmm. Because the male line would come first, and the whole pretext for Robert's rebellion was this, because Robert was betrothed to Lyanna, and the whole pretext was that Rhaegar supposedly kidnapped and raped Lyanna, and that's why initially that's why Ned's father, Rickard Stark, and Ned's older brother, Brandon Stark, went down to King's Landing to get her back, and then the Mad King had them burned alive. And the pretext also being that Robert, who was in love and betrothed to Lyanna, then lost his love, and so that's why he rose up, and that's why it's Robert's rebellion. So this totally changes what we know about Rhaegar and Lyanna and the whole relationship. Or at least for most people, it confirms what they expected.
What was there an annulment in the books? I don't remember that.
That's the thing. The books hasn't given us really much information. They've discussed it at length, but it's always been like secondhand accounts.
Yeah, there's still no R plus L equals J explicitly given in the book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The book, as far as it goes, the couple of things we do know, when Ned is down in the crypts, remember, before he gets beheaded? So he's actually down there for like weeks, I think, at a time. And, you know, he had just had the injury where Jaime had stabbed him in the leg. So he's having fever dreams and, you know, it's pitch black. So he's going in and out of sleep and like starting to kind of lose sanity. And there's a like multi-page long fever dream that we're supposed to assume is more memory than a dream, where he goes through the whole Tower of Joy thing. And you find out, you know, what they did actually show in the show, that he showed up with, I think, 7 or 6 other northern lords. They find 3 Kingsguard down at the Tower of Joy. They somehow defeat the Kingsguard, one of which being Arthur Dane, who was the best fighter in all the land, which is what they showed Howland Reed stabbing him in the back. And then Ned goes to the tower and finds his sister Lyanna in what's described as a bed of blood. And then after that, it gets kind of weird, and like the account becomes strange, where it's almost as if Ned lost time, where he kind of like comes to again and he has the baby, and supposedly they tore the tower down, which it's like, how did they do that? You know, if it was just him and Howland Reed at that point, Howland Reed being the father of Jojen and Mira, who are with Bran. And, but we don't really know, you know, what the promise Lyanna made Ned promise. You know, supposedly, if R plus L does in fact equal J, the likely promise is, promise me that you will raise this boy as your own, because if Robert or anyone else finds out that he's in fact Rhaegar Targaryen's son, they'll have him killed. So that's the most likely explanation, but what makes Game of Thrones so cool is the mystery, and so it could be a number of other things. So yeah, that was a huge reveal that they just kind of like casually did. But I expect, you know, whenever Jon does find out, whether it be he's told by Bran or maybe Sam does remember what Gilly said in the previously on, they'll probably show that scene that we just saw.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like, hey, remember this that you probably didn't catch if you're not a book reader? So yeah, that was all very interesting. But yeah, I'm just overall a little frustrated that the Maesters seem to be like skeptics who don't really believe in things, when they're supposed to be more like, we're open to everything, we just don't believe in, you know, mumbo jumbo, but we are going to explore it and we're going to figure out if there is truth to things. So, you know, someone, especially because, you know, in the first season, George Mormont sent the White's Hand down to King's Landing. So, like, there should be some way of convincing the Maesters, I feel.
Yeah, they kind of just seem to want to sit it all out in their little, you know, citadel and not be a part of this war.
Right.
I think that's what they're thinking.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how long they're going to be safe there. So.
But yeah, I expect that we're just not going to see the Citadel again.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. It was, I did like that Sam got out of there because he was like, where's this going to go? How long is he going to stay?
Yeah, exactly. Is he going to find out anything important?
Yeah. So he found out 2 important things and he's on his way.
And
then
he has scrolls, so I guess he could find out some more.
I'm sure they're all very conveniently filled with very important information.
Yeah, exactly. Of the, like, how many there are in the whole Citadel.
Yeah.
R.R. Martin.
Yeah.
The final words. They're all in those scrolls.
He picked up The World of Ice and Fire on his way out. The coffee table book.
Exactly. So I'm sure it's all there. And the hint about John tied in really nicely, I thought, with Danny's arrival back at Dragonstone.
Yeah.
Which I think was kind of the next thing anyway, right? Like,
well, before that's the Cersei
and, the
Cersei
Jamie conversation.
Jamie, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Reunion.
He got back quicker. He got back quicker than the person flying on the dragon.
Yeah.
He's got access to a better teleporter.
Seriously. Oh, yes.
I mean, that's how he was able to beat Grey Worm to Casterly Rock. And I mean, the conversation, though, it was very frustrating what you were saying about, like, Cersei's whole thing at the end. Like, oh, I already knew.
Yeah, that was pretty frustrating to me, especially just because I feel like now they're kind of making Cersei this all-knowing, all-powerful person, where in the book she's much more complex than that. Like, she is smarter than a lot of people assume, but she also has flaws and faults and times where she thinks she knows something that she doesn't, and I don't know, I feel like it just felt like too much to me to be like, oh, I knew that you were having this meeting with Tyrion and all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it did feel a little bit like she was, like they were trying to make her somewhat more relatable by the fact that she was open, it seemed, to hearing what they had to say. But, I don't know, it's all pretty clumsy at this point.
Yeah, and you knew all that, but you didn't know who really killed your son. Nice going.
Yeah.
And it seems like she didn't even buy it, you know?
Well, the best part is that she's like, I knew I shouldn't have let you just poison her. Like she's pissed.
She should have died screaming.
Yeah, that was like the exact reaction I thought Cersei was going to have when Olenna was saying, tell Cersei for me. I'm like, oh, Cersei's going to be pissed that she didn't die a miserable death.
Yeah, seriously.
And it's also just creepy that she's pregnant.
Yeah, well, okay, so then the other thing I was going to mention about that with her pregnancy is that doesn't that go against the prophecy? Because she was only supposed to have 3, unless this child doesn't have golden hair.
Well,
or it might not make it.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's actually a good point, because that raises the question of they've already ignored the prophecy. Remember in the first season when Cersei says that she had a baby who died young, who supposedly was Robert's and not Jaime's.
Yeah, she said it had black hair.
It had black curly hair. But then you bring up a good point of, like, is the prophecy meant to be taken literally? Like, you'll have 3 kids with golden crowns and golden shrouds, and maybe some other kids without golden crowns.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, I think that's given the show a little too much credit.
But have they explicitly said that part of the prophecy in the show?
What, the golden crowns and golden... I'm pretty sure that's what they said, yeah.
They've mentioned the number 3.
Yeah, I think they just ignored the fact that she said she had another child in the first season.
Well, the fact that it leaves out the one child doesn't make the 3 golden crown children inaccurate. So.
Right. No, it absolutely doesn't. But then it also raises the question of, are they still accounting for the prophecy as far as this next child is concerned? Or are they just like, whatever, we wanted to give Cersei a baby?
Well, but like Robin said, we don't know that this baby will survive.
It may not, yeah.
Especially if Cersei doesn't survive.
Exactly.
Well, it'll probably be in her 8th month next week.
Right.
Yeah.
But based on the fact that Jon has gone all the way to Eastwatch from Dragonstone.
I still just don't get how the White Walkers are the slowest people.
Yeah, they're not even there yet.
They're not even there. Everybody else has been traveling south and all over.
Mm-hmm.
Ping-ponging all over Westeros.
Winter takes a really long time. Nothing else does.
Yeah.
But yeah, that brings us back to Jon on Dragonstone.
Yes, and that was one of my favorite moments, I think, in the show. Like
him with
Jon
the dragon.
The dragon. It just, to me, like, I love dragons so much that, like, it just was like so satisfying as a nerd to just, like to see the awe and the close up of the dragon's eye. Like,
yeah.
It's so well done, and that recognition from the dragon.
Right. You smelled like Targaryen.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I just thought that was like so perfect.
Yeah.
And Daenerys was like, "What's going on here? Why are you touching my boy?"
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was the only thing that confused me a little bit, was that Daenerys didn't make more of a big deal out of it. Like I'm supposing that no one's ever touched her dragon before other than her, and to have this guy just like be able to pet like her like number one baby, Drogon. Like, she just kind of, I mean, she gives a little bit of a like, that's interesting, but like it didn't seem like, I feel like if that was me, I'd be like, holy crap, like, how did you do that? Like, what's going on here? You know, like, it would be a bigger deal.
Well, but also keep in mind that you're right, she hasn't actually witnessed it, but definitely in the books, and I think even in the show too, other characters have gone near the dragons and they haven't gone crazy on them. Yes, Targaryens are special in that they're able to birth them and ride them easily, but they're not the only ones. In the show, remember, Tyrion went up to the dragons and was able to like calm them and did he put he took the chains off of them.
Yeah.
Remember?
But isn't there also the theory that he's
a Targaryen
is a Targaryen as well? So.
There is, but in the book, remember, there's also that character Brown Ben Plum. He's like a sellsword that at first is with Daenerys and he and the second sons end up defecting and joining the other side on Meereen, but he has a weird kinship with the dragons as well. But he claims it's because he has Targaryen blood in him. So maybe that is a thing to it. But also, there's a character, and this is going way geeking out, but in the Dance of the Dragons, which was the Targaryen Civil War that happened about 200 years before the events of Game of Thrones, and it's called the Dance of the Dragons because these two Targaryen factions, the Greens and the Blacks, battled with each other over who was supposed to be next in line. Was it supposed to be, one of the, like, a distant son or a closer in relationship daughter? And they went to war, and it's when most of the dragons that were still alive died out because Targaryens were fighting Targaryens with their dragons. And the reason I bring it up is because one of the dragons ended up getting ridden by a girl who had no Targaryen blood in her. She was just a common girl. Her name was Nettles. And what she did was she just kept feeding this dragon sheep. Like, she would, I think her family were shepherds, and a dragon would, eat on their lands. And so she kept, like, feeding the dragon sheep until it got distracted, essentially, and then she just jumped on its back. And one of the interesting little tidbits about the books is that when Daenerys in the second season and second book is wandering before she gets to Karth, they spot a dragon skeleton. And Nettles just rode her dragon off and was never seen again. So maybe that was her dragon that Daenerys saw. Just a cool little touch I like. But yeah, so it was definitely, though, a special moment with Jon being a Targaryen and having that connection to Drogon. Didn't you say, like, when we see the other two in the background, like, is Daenerys going to be like, hey, why don't you try riding one of them?
Yeah.
But that would have been too much.
Again, they could have, like, when they were doing their plot, they could have just been like, let's get a dragon, hop over the wall, pick up one of these things.
Yeah, it'll be so much easier.
That too. It's like, why? Like, that would be the fastest way to get one of those things back down to Cersei. Just
like, bring the dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, they get places fast enough without them, so.
Yeah, speed of dragons.
Yeah. So then they're having their little talk where they're ham-fisting a love story for us. And then who should show up but good old friend zone himself. He shows up and she's with a hot guy.
I know, that was what I said exactly. I'm like, aw, he's pissed.
Jorah.
Jorah.
Oh, who's this? A hot guy? Are you two? Well, I'm just glad to be here again. I guess it's all I can ask for. But yeah, and what a missed opportunity that Sam didn't tell Jorah anything about Jon.
Yeah, or that they would have made the connection somehow. Like, hey, I know this guy from
Yeah, I thought that might happen.
Yeah.
And I guess there's still time for that to happen, maybe. Yeah. Well, no, they're probably going to be distracted by fighting.
They don't have time. And they really made it clear that, like, Sam didn't have much of any other conversation with Jorah.
Yeah.
Like,
well, they both made the connection that they knew his father.
Right.
So that might have, made been like, oh, did you know this guy? That's where it was.
Yeah.
I think it could have connected the dots.
But I just mean, like, we never saw on screen Sam give him any sort of, like, explanation about the whites beyond the wall. Like that was introduced to Jorah just now.
Yeah.
And, like, I heard a good proposal, another way to kind of fix and streamline the plot. Wouldn't it have been better if when Sam cures the grayscale, instead of the Maester being like, all right, you're healed, peace out, instead he's like, what the fuck, Sam? Like, you just did this behind my back, and also, we have no idea if the grayscale is cured. I mean, it's supposed to take a long time to take hold, so it could be, months could pass and he could show grayscale again. Also, I don't know if they've said this in the show, but in the books, the Citadel and Old Town went through a horrific grayscale epidemic where it was like on par with the Black Plague. Like the whole town had to be quarantined essentially. And so they should be completely frightened by this. So a cool way that they could have had Sam and Jorah, give this exposition and get this, information to each other is if the Maester was like, you did this behind my back. You weren't supposed to do anything. We don't know if he's cured. We don't know if you caught it. So the two of you are quarantined together. And then we get them starting to, like, open up to each other. And Sam tells Jorah all about the White Walkers that he's seen and the army of the dead. And Jorah, tells Sam all about Daenerys and the dragons. And, like, they make this connection so that when Jorah gets there, more information is brought along.
Yeah, or Sam could have left with him at that point, too, maybe.
Yeah. That's a good
like,
point.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe they escape together.
Travel buddies.
Yeah.
So you could have a whole little road trip, yeah.
Well, but no one has road trips anymore. They just show up where they're
don't.
going.
Yeah.
There's point A and point B and no journey.
Yeah, not at all. But, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so then they cook up that new plot to speak down to King's Landing, which was interesting. And then the other guys were going to go north. And
Yeah.
I was very excited about the King's Landing just because when I saw Gendry, I was like,
Oh, yeah. No, that was great.
They had that little, like, they snuck it, and then he's like, I got business to take care of. And it was nice that they finally wrapped something up. Like,
Yeah. Did you like Davos's little nod to memes all over the internet when he said that, I expected you might still be rowing?
Yes. I read that it was a tweet or something.
Yeah.
Actually made it into the script. It's kind of a nice nod to
Yeah.
fandom.
I'm quite the regular on the Reddit Game of Thrones subreddits, Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire. And it was funny, though. This is the episode where I actually saw the most hate on the subreddits.
Really?
Yeah, and all the points they were making were the things that we've been essentially talking about this entire time. The teleportation and like the fan service and everything.
Well, I guess maybe because they weren't distracted by all the big battles and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, since this is a slower moving one, they had more time to process it and realize all the little things that we've been...
Yeah, exactly. It's just
Very
funny
possible.
that I thought this was one of the better episodes. But yeah, the whole, I guess we'll jump a little bit. The whole assembling of the Avengers Beyond the Wall.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fan servicey, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Me too. I got, like, because every time there was like another little meeting, I was like, I was kind of like, okay, John meets Gendry, awesome. And then when you see who's there waiting for them, you're like,
and by the way, the Hound and Beric Dondarrion and Thoros are here.
Yeah, and how they all realize most of them hate each other.
Yeah, most of them have reasons to hate each other.
I think I read somewhere on Facebook, somebody said that this is the most Dungeons & Dragons episode.
It really was, yeah.
It's like...
Squad goals.
Assemblage of characters going on to this horrible mission.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You could hear the dungeon master reading it to...
You come across a white.
I hear Tyrion narrating it.
Roll a d20.
Yes, it totally is so cool. I don't know. I did kind of think of that as a cool moment. I don't know. I enjoyed that, and I thought there were a lot of cool moments like that in this episode.
Yeah,
and those were definitely some of them.
You know what I also wonder if it is? Maybe it's since we've been talking about this stuff the entire season, and I've been talking about it for the past 2 years, that I guess I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, all right, fine, whatever. If that's what we're doing now, I'm just gonna have to love it. But no, I really did. I liked the whole conversation at the jail cell, even. And okay, another thing, Davos finally brings up to Tyrion the fact that he's responsible for his son's death, and it's just like a throwaway line.
Yeah.
It's like they've gotten to the point where they're just like, all right, we don't want to take the time to explore how these difficult relationships would pan out, so we'll just have them say something, and then it's over.
Yeah.
They don't have to think about it anymore. I did also like, since we were talking about, Jon's parentage and stuff, when Gendry came up and was all like, right out the gates with, I'm the bastard son of Robert Baratheon, you're the bastard son of Ned Stark, our dads were best friends. No, they weren't. Your dads were mortal enemies because Jon's dad is actually Rhaegar.
Oh, yeah.
And Rhaegar and Robert, Robert killed Rhaegar.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a cool little thing that neither of them knew.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so cute. The two of them. I don't know. I thought
It
it
was.
adorable.
Yeah, no,
it
it
was
was
very
cute.
cute.
He's like, you're short. You're this. I don't know. I just found that really like just cute.
Yeah, no, it was a fun scene.
Yeah, and I think that was supposed to be kind of a nod to the first thing
Mhm.
Robert and Ned say to each other
Yeah.
when he's like, "You
That's
got
right.
fat."
Yes.
And he was like,
right.
"You're shorter than I expected."
Yes.
And then they
I forgot about
laugh
that.
because they'll be good friends.
Yes. It's just I think one of the recaps I called it bastard bromance or something.
Yeah.
Like they call that sex. I thought that was
Yeah.
definitely. That's a good pairing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, and what else, man? Just so much happened at the
I
end
know,
there.
So then you also had we didn't touch on Winterfell at all. Like,
Well, I was
on
gonna
there?
say that. I was just
Yeah.
trying to think if there was anything else cool
Oh.
with Tormund's asking John
Oh.
with the big lady came.
Oh yeah, is
Of
Brienne
course.
with you?
That's so
That's
cute.
another just cute, like little. I mean, I love Tor. He's another one that's just like, they've got such great B players in this show. Like
They
Tormund
really
and
do.
Ron, and he's great. That-
We did say during the episode that Davos was winning in this
Oh,
episode. He was
absolutely.
like the MVP of the episode, I felt
Oh.
like.
So many great lines.
Yes, Davos is really getting a little like feisty. It seems like he just has like a lot of
He's supposed to be though. That's
yeah.
I feel like the way he's supposed to be written. Like they've spent so much time the last few seasons with him being the sad, Shireen got burned character.
Well, yeah, because in the book, he's a POV character, so you do get a lot of his inner thinkings,
Mhm.
and he's a more developed character than you would think.
Exactly.
So I really loved that part of him kind of stood out in this episode.
Yeah, I was so happy that like he got to be a smuggler again. Because
Yes,
that's
and
like one of the coolest things about Davos is that he's a natural talent when it comes to smuggling. He's Han Solo of Westeros.
that whole fermented crab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he had that ready. Like that really was great.
Absolutely genius,
I mean,
yeah. Because
He
that
was
means that
really
he
right.
thought that out. He intentionally said, we're going to bring this fermented crab because if we do need to like explain why we're here. And it was another thing too that I saw getting a lot of hate on the subreddits, like, that's so stupid. They just like washed ashore on a beach in King's Landing, which is at war. It's like, yeah, that's what a smuggler would do and have a backup story.
And, I mean, the fact that they rode out there with this stinking crab.
Right, yeah.
This is funny.
It was funny, it was clever. It was also not supposed to be like they just, wrote, I mean, granted the way it's depicted in the show, you don't really get a sense of like the area and how visible it is, but when he said, there's steps over there, he was very clearly referencing that this is where Littlefinger took Sansa.
Yeah.
And in the first book, Littlefinger actually takes Ned this way. So that's supposed to be a very good, like, secretive spot.
Sure.
Where if you want to sneak something into or out of King's Landing without being seen, this is where you would go. And it's, of course Davos would know about it. He's a smuggler from King's Landing.
But my other favorite thing in that scene was Tyrion trying to just be like, I'm just going to sneak right past these guys.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't even notice him. And then they're like, hey, we were looking for an imp with a scar. Like,
Yeah, my first thought was like,
he was
Tyrion,
trying to, like,
fucking hide.
that's so awesome.
like you're the most obvious person.
Exactly. And he's just like shouldering past him, like, nothing to see here.
Nope, I'm just another dwarf.
That really cracked me up.
Yeah. And I guess that also implies if those were, gold cloaks, then Tyrion was in charge of them in season 2. So they should definitely recognize Tyrion Lannister right away.
I think by their, like, they seem like pretty dumb.
Yeah,
so I think they're really at the bottom of the barrel of who's left with the gold.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. There's also been so many changing.
Lost a lot.
Of
like
people.
these guys were not well trained. They were dumb as dirt.
Yeah, a lot probably died when the sept blew up.
Exactly. So this is who we got left on.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
They're actually probably related to those other two dumb guards over at Winterfell.
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. It's like
there's a real shortage of intelligent
soldiers for plot convenience.
Whoever we have that can man the gates.
Yes, they'll take anyone.
Yeah.
Man, they are dumb.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I did. I really liked that whole sequence, and you know, it was just great to see Davos being, you know, being a smuggler again.
Yeah, he smuggled Gendry out of Bigfoot. You know, that was great.
Yeah, no, that was brilliant. But yeah, let's go to Winterfell, as you mentioned, which, again, I thought they finally did something right again. Littlefinger is scheming.
Oh, man.
Littlefinger is being Littlefinger.
He's such a creep. You just knew, like, something was up with him. Like,
yeah, I mean,
it was too easy.
Yeah, the way that they shot it with when she was looking at him. Like, he, after she had moved, like, him looking behind him, where she had just been, like, I was like, he's definitely playing her.
Yeah, this has been set up.
Yeah, and that really bothers me. Like, I'm really worried for Arya. Like,
right.
I don't know.
No, absolutely, but at the same time, I think that's exactly what you're supposed to do with Littlefinger as a character. Like, you're supposed to be worried whenever he's doing something.
Yeah.
But, like, for the past 2 seasons, we haven't had that sensation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was great to actually see that again.
Sure. I read that note was, I couldn't see it on the screen at all.
Yeah.
But I read that it's the note that Sansa was forced to write.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Yeah, because I couldn't make out that it was Sansa's name at the bottom.
That's all I made out, too. And then, when we were actually watching the episode, I was kind of just thinking, what could it be? Like, is that something that, like, Littlefinger forged? And then today, as I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, I bet it was the letter the Lannisters made her write.
Yeah, and so I don't know if that's meant to upset Arya?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to... Well, because didn't the letter say something along the lines of, like, you know, Ned deserved to be beheaded, and Robb, you should surrender, and all that, and Arya was actually, like, there at the beheading, as was Sansa, but... Yeah. Arya was actually there, so it would, you know, it's clearly meant to, that Littlefinger's trying to drive a wedge between the two sisters.
Because Arya was gone at that point, I think, right? When Sansa was forced to write that?
Yeah, exactly. Arya was already on her way with Yoren to the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
But, the thing about it, though...
She would have known that she was forced to write it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like you would know that she was forced to write it.
Yeah.
Like Robb and Kat, when they receive the letter, immediately are like, the Lannisters are forcing her to write this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the where Arya's at right now, in the way that, you know, the whole confrontation that they just had, with her being like, are you trying to take over Jon's position? And the fact that they're already having this tension, and the fact that Arya isn't the most stable person anymore, it seems like she wouldn't necessarily be thinking along those logical lines to reason that she was forced to do that. I think she wants to believe that Sansa might have had ill intentions, because that's what she kind of is seeing right now. But
I totally agree. I don't think that it was necessarily. I actually think it was a very clever on the show writers thing to bring back.
Oh yeah, totally. But just to go back to Arya's character,
what's she like this week?
I mean, the whole rest of the season, I've definitely been on the same boat of you as she's definitely not my favorite character anymore, and she's kind of getting weird and whatnot. But this episode really made me feel like, man, I'm not feeling Arya at all anymore. I feel like it's just too much. I'm not relating to her whatsoever anymore.
Exactly.
And even the what was she saying? She was implying to Sansa that they should just kill all of the other northern families. It's that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And supposedly she would have grown up with all those people, and they would have been close friends to her parents and stuff like that. They're not her enemies. She's just wants to kill everyone now. Not even people who are on her list. It's, I don't know. It just seems too far off the deep end for me.
I totally agree. Here's a good way of telling if a character has been developed well and if you actually care. What would you think if Arya were killed next episode?
Oh, I still wouldn't like that.
You wouldn't like it?
No.
I'd be fine with it.
Really?
Because I would not be fine with it if we're talking seasons 1 through 4 Arya.
Yeah.
I loved that Arya. But at this point, I'd just be like, all right, sure.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I still am rooting for her. Maybe Dawn's going to snap sense to her or something when they finally reunite.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice, but they've done too much oh, she's a badass fighter now, and not enough she's damaged.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, they do sometimes give you hints that she's damaged. The whole conversation with Hot Pie, I actually felt like that was pretty appropriate.
Yeah.
That does seem like how someone who had been through all that would kind of react. That she can't. But then, she's just had this shit-eating grin the whole time she's been in Winterfell.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm very frustrated with the whole handling of Arya.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I'm not happy with where she's been going.
Yeah. How would you feel if Arya were killed next episode?
Yeah, no.
I mean, I wouldn't love it, just because I feel I'm still deep down hoping that they can turn her around and maybe that they have something else going on that would be interesting. And I don't think they're going to, because I still think she still is a fan favorite, and that they do have too many possibilities of things for her to do. Yeah, I wouldn't want her to die just yet, but if she died, if she does die at all, well, I don't know, it's hard to say, because the death in Game of Thrones is such an interesting thing,
Yeah.
Well, I guess more what I mean by that is, even if it's a character, that has the opposite of the Jaime arc, instead of, you grow to love them, if it's a character you start out loving and grow to hate, if it's a good character, you still don't want them to die, because you still want to see what's going to happen with this person. With Arya, I feel very similar to how I felt when they killed, Doran Martell, where it was just all right, yeah, abandon that plot line, whatever. You weren't doing anything with it.
I don't know. I'm not at that point yet,
You're
even though I really don't like where she's at now. I'm still hoping that they can do something interesting with her.
Yeah.
Well, and to bring it back around to how much I liked the end of this episode, I did feel again oh, okay, this could get interesting with Arya.
It's interesting because when you were just talking about that, it made me think of Walter White.
Uh-huh.
How he starts off as this person you sympathize with
Yeah.
so much, and then he goes down this path, and at the end, like if he started the character that he is at the end, if he had started that way in the beginning, you wouldn't have connected to him at all.
No.
But I think that because there's so many other plot lines going on in Game of Thrones, like maybe if we had more time with Arya and to see her get to this crazy place, you'd be able to do it more. Like if it was just focusing on her the way that it did with Walter White, like it would be easier to see her at this point now. But because it's like and it seems just like too fast for her to be there from where she was.
Yeah, and as you said, the inconsistency in her character from episode to episode just makes it really difficult to get a read on who she is at this point. You know, I guess she is truly no one because she's so poorly written.
See, I almost wish she would have went up to the wall instead of Winterfell.
Yeah.
Because it would have been really awesome if she was up there at Eastwatch with him.
Yeah, for sure.
Reunited with the Hound, reunited with Gendry, reunited with your brother. That would be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And you would know how to feel about it.
Yeah. And she'd probably be really useful. She's small. She's a little fast.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Maybe now is a good time for me to give my suggestion for how I would have fixed the Arya plotline this season.
Yeah, we didn't get to this last week.
No, we didn't. So, all right. First of all, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed about the Arya plotline, starting with when she gets to the House of Black and White. But... You know, I'm not going to go that deep into it. Let's pretend like seasons 5 and season 6 happened exactly the way they happened, and you don't really get to fix it. So, season 7, she comes back to the twins to kill Walder Frey. What if, instead of having that ludicrous idea that she's able to get into the twins magically, to commandeer the kitchens long enough to bake a pie out of 2 of the guys she's killed, to then take over Walder Frey's face, to act as Walder Frey for 2 weeks, to kill all the Freys, scrap all that. Instead, what if she goes back to the Riverlands and she finds that the Hound has joined up with the Brotherhood. Also, this also fixes the Hound storyline, because instead of having that whole side thing of him with the Septon that didn't really go anywhere, because he just went straight back to violence, instead, have it be that the Brotherhood are the ones who found the Hound as he was dying. And the Brotherhood are the ones who kind of nurse him back to health, and he is... the Brotherhood are doing what they're doing in the books, where they're going around killing off Freys one by one in a much more true-to-life way. Like, instead of having a ridiculous, anyone can break into the twins story, instead they're having to use these kind of guerrilla tactics where they're luring the Freys and killing them off one by one, but also using kind of a campaign of fear where they don't know how they're all dying, getting picked off like flies, essentially. And the Hound, though, have him have a similar character arc to the books where he's still turning away from violence. He's still feeling like this is not right, but now that he's joined up with the Brotherhood and he's kind of indebted to them for saving his life, he's still going along with it. That's when Arya shows up, and she's all gung-ho, like, yeah, let's kill off some Freys. let's kill as many as possible because she's completely crazy at this point. And then you resolve the Hound's character arc and her character arc as sort of a redemption thing where he has to, first of all, deal with his own demons and figure out if he can, stop the bloodshed by also helping Arya to stop being so violent and vengeful and, wouldn't that be a much cooler character arc rather than just, oh yeah, she kills people?
Yeah, no, that would make sense, I think. And I think it would have been cool to reunite the Hound and Arya in a lot of ways.
Right, they
like
really
seeing her
should.
back with Sansa.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she really could have been more useful on this other journey.
Yeah.
But they didn't take her there, so.
Yeah.
She really's got nothing to do.
She's got nothing to do, and we're so confused as to how to feel about her. But whatever. She fights Brienne.
Yeah. I mean, and that's cool. It was all, interesting scenes, but it seems like she doesn't have anything to do there, and it could get her in trouble, and that's why I'm worried about her.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen. Either she's going to storm out of there, or something. There's going to definitely be tension.
Yeah, I wonder how far they're going to take it.
Yeah. Yeah, that little finger's such a creep.
Yep, he really is.
Creep.
But he knows how to play people.
Yeah, biggest creep there is.
Yep.
Yeah, I was worried about her. Usually I'm not worried about that girl because she can take care of herself, but
yeah.
but he's playing a different game than she is, so
yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, it makes me wonder how far they're gonna go in 2 episodes. Like, are they gonna even resolve this? Or are the next 2 episodes going to be heightening tension between Sansa and Arya?
Maybe. I don't remember seeing them in the previews at all.
Yeah, it might just be, something that they heighten the tension a little bit, but don't actually bring to any sort of conclusion, so that we start out the next season with them kind of at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Which would be fine. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because that's where they were to begin with. They didn't get along. From, I think, the first episode, it was obvious that they were not, close sisters, so.
Right, yeah. And that's, kind of the whole thing, that they're 2 opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Sansa always, just wanted to be a good little lady and get married and all that, and Arya wanted a different path.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Put Littlefinger on her list.
Yeah, probably by the end of it.
Put Littlefinger on your list.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying since she went to Winterfell, I guess she's gonna kill Littlefinger, right? She's going to end up killing Littlefinger?
I don't know. Unless he gets to her first.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's going to be one or the other, though. That definitely seems to set up to me.
Yeah. I wonder if
Sansa's going to choose one or the other.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a literal death, it'll be a split.
Yeah. I mean, it would be great if Sansa killed Littlefinger.
Yeah, that would be great, too. That would be satisfying.
I mean, if anyone should want him dead, it's her.
You do want to see her get more revenge, I think, too. You just feel like Sansa needs to become a little more like Arya.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how they've kind of been flirting with this whole, Sansa's dark now, but they haven't really brought that much out in her. Like they teased it in season 4, when her and Littlefinger were talking to the Vale Lords. But then they kind of didn't bring it back. And then, they had the whole her and Ramsay thing, and then that would have been a really good time to have this character change where she's, dark and she's fucked up at this point. But they've really had her more of like, no, she's a strong leader, and, she's a good person and all of that. Like, I feel like they could have brought in a little more dimensionality to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they could have, but we already have so many other fucked up characters that, like, maybe they're like, we need to balance it out a little bit.
Yeah.
There's Cersei, there's all these other nutjobs running around.
Theon.
Yeah, Theon, oh my god. Theon, did you guys see Game of Jones?
No, what's that?
Oh, you haven't seen it? Leslie Jones.
Oh.
Last episode on Seth Meyers. You gotta watch it.
I saw it come up on YouTube, but I didn't actually watch it. I love Leslie Jones,
After we
though.
hang up, go watch it, and you will laugh so hard.
Oh, good.
It is amazing. It is one of the...
You know what's funny? I usually don't like, like Game of Thrones joke stuff. But Seth Meyers, I think, does really good ones. Did you see his, like, a year or two ago that was, like, Jon Snow at a dinner party?
Oh, no, I did.
Oh, that was a great one. You should check it out.
I think he's a fan, and Leslie Jones is definitely a fan, too. So I think that, they're not making fun of his, like, ugh, you know what I mean? Like, they're making fun of it as nerds. So, yeah, no, it's really funny. It's just, I watched it like 3 times.
That's great. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, really funny stuff.
Well, I think we've gone through the whole episode.
Yeah.
We teased I'm glad that I got to give my Arya explanation, because I really, after the show is over, want to do a whole thing on the Hound and the Arya plotline, and just the whole question of, like, how is violence and revenge being portrayed in the show? Are they pushing George's message that violent revenge is not a good thing to seek out? And I really look forward to having a whole thing on that. So I'm glad I got to bring that up. Because I think that would be a much better plotline for Arya to follow, where, we see that she's gone so crazy with revenge and her list and everything, and we see how bad it is. Because I feel like the show is still kind of leading towards, but she's badass, She's supposed to be killing everyone. And I would like it a lot more if they showed you just the horror and the trauma that it leads to. But on that note, I think it's time for a sign-off. Robin, your channel is Miss Robin on YouTube?
Yeah, Miss Robin and Robin and Penny and Miss Robin's Third Life on YouTube.
Awesome. And we are Explain of Thrones on YouTube. I'm gonna see if I have time this week to get us a Facebook page. That way, people can join and like and give commentary on that.
And we have Gmail.
explainofthrones@gmail.com if you'd like to send us anything, or go ahead and comment on the YouTube video, like and subscribe. And I want to thank you guys for being on. From our throne to yours, this is Explain of Thrones.